Hi there, I'm Naomi Hutchison, and this is my top tips for spoken word poetry in a faith context, so from a Christian perspective. I'm just going to rattle through these various tips because there's quite a few of them. If you're a note taker, feel free to jot down the headlines. And for most of the points, I'm going to give you a little kind of takeaway as something to do or to think about or a question to ponder. So you can carry on with this afterwards and develop it for yourself. So the first thing I would say is my biggest top tip is to find your reason. What is your reason for using spoken word poetry? Why do you want to get into this if you're just starting out? Why are you doing it if you're already established in it? Find your reason. So for me, I guess my sort of life mission, if you like, is to help people take steps for spiritual growth. So I've wanted to do that my entire adult life. So help people either grow in their faith or come to know Jesus for the first time. That for me is what life's about. But I've simply shifted the ways I've done that. So it's always been through spoken communication for me. But whereas I used to sort of speak for a longer amount of time, give talks and that kind of thing, which I still do, I then got to the stage of going, oh, actually, people are watching little 1-minute videos. People will listen to a 2-minute spoken word piece. So how can I take that idea that I'm trying to teach someone and bring it down to a shorter, more succinct way, more creative way of sharing it with them? So my why has stayed the same, but how I've gone about that has slightly changed. So I would say takeaways here on know your reason, find your reason. Think about this question: what about my story forms my reason for wanting to use spoken word for Jesus? So have a look back on your life and your story and your journey. What are the things there that you would pick out that say, oh yeah, I think there, that kind of shaped that part of me. And that means that I want to tell other people about Jesus, or that little bit of creativity there. Whatever it is in your journey, your family history, in your story, that can help you find your reason for why you're wanting to do this. And secondly, starting quite big, what is the mission statement for my life? If you've never thought about that, the mission statement, why are you here? What is your life about? What is it that you want to achieve? How do you want to go about it? What's the big picture stuff? Mission statement for your life, for why you're here and why you exist. If you've never thought about that, now would be a great time to do it. Okay, so after we have found our reason or started to explore our reason, secondly, I would say find your voice. Find your voice. So Amy Orr Ewing is brilliant. And this book of hers is fantastic. It's Lead Like the Real You, Wisdom for Women on Finding Your Voice, Pursuing God's Calling and Leading with Courage. And she writes this: a woman who is confident and secure in her God-given voice is a powerful thing to behold. And her voice is embodied, not theoretical. Her voice is designed to be heard by others. And it's really interesting to think about our voice. How do I sound to other people? How do I come across to other people? And part of this is about listening to other people. Listening carefully to others. How do they use their voices? How do they communicate? How do they put things across? With their voice, with their hand gestures, with how they hold themselves. We're all unique, aren't we? And so part of finding our voice and the unique way that we are to use that is listening to others, because we will notice things that, oh, I'd like to use that. I'd like to start doing that. Or we'll also notice things, I don't find that so helpful, and make sure I'm not doing that. We'll notice the differences and the similarities between them and us and the way we communicate. So part of it is listening to other people, but part of it is listening to ourselves. And the only way really we can do that is to have a recording of something that we've shared and watch it back. And it can be super painful and embarrassing and awkward. And I don't think many of us like to hear our own voices back. But it's the way we learn. It really is the way we learn. If you're not able to get a recording, then find a trusted person who you can ask. And once you've shared a piece of spoken word, ask them to give you some feedback. Carefully, gently, lovingly, but honestly. Where were all the ums and the ahs and the non-words? Where were the hand gestures that were really distracting? What were the real positive things? How did you use your emotion? How did you keep people engaged? So get some feedback and learn what things you do naturally. So when you feel relaxed, the things that, how you hold yourself, how you use your hands, how you use your voice, what you do naturally, so that then if it's a performance, when you're nervous, you can then try to do those things which you naturally do. Amy or Ewing says, parallel to the challenges of owning our embodied voices is the pressure to compete or compare ourselves with other women. Don't do that, she writes. Jesus has given you your voice with its unique tone and all the twists and turns of your life's journey that make it unique. Resist the temptation to adopt someone else's voice. Your voice is precious, unique, embodied. Find it, steward it, and use it. So, a takeaway from finding your voice is spend some time recognizing before God that He has given you a unique voice, both literally how you sound and the viewpoint that you speak from. And learn to sit in that. Be comfortable with it and celebrate it. So find your reason and find your voice. Next, I would say honour the impact of spoken word. And by that I mean, let's recognise and celebrate the massive, powerful impact that a great spoken word piece can have. Just like a film that people remember or a piece of music that people find hugely emotive, a really brilliantly crafted piece of spoken word poetry can be so, so powerful. I had the privilege of sharing a piece in our church that I wrote called Resurrection Day, and I shared it for Easter. And then afterwards I met a guy that was in the service for the first time and he'd not been before, and he found the piece so impactful that when I saw him the next week in church, he came back and he said, I went to the live stream of this church service and I've just kept listening to your poem. He said, I have to listen to it every day. And then he came back the next week and I'd printed out a version of it and gave it to him, so he had the words. And I saw him a few weeks later, I have to read this poem every day. And he wasn't reading the Bible. He was in a really difficult point in his life, but he was absolutely clinging on to the words of that poem about resurrection. So find a piece of spoken word. This is what I would challenge you to do. Find a piece of spoken word which has a really powerful spiritual impact on you, and let that spur you on. Actually, I think sometimes what can happen, if I find someone so brilliantly doing a piece of spoken word, sometimes I go, oh my gosh, that's so good. I'm never going to be able to do it that good. Do I want to give up? Let's not let it affect us like that. Let's let it spur us on, encourage us, give us something to aim for, and remember the spiritual impact. We don't have to be the best spoken word artist in the world. It simply has to be truthful, it has to be real, it has to be honest, it has to come from us. And we have to really want to convey that to the people who are listening. So if it comes from a good place, a good heart, it can be really, really impactful. So find a couple of favourites that you always come back to and watch so that they can inspire you. Okay, so actually crafting a piece of spoken word. Sometimes we'll do that because there's something we feel particularly passionate about, or a thought or an idea comes to us, or something happens to us and we think, oh yeah, now that's an idea, and we have to write something. It's a bit like my husband is a photographer and a camera director, and it's not that he takes the best technical photos. It's very often just that he went, I just knew there was a shot there. I just knew there was something that had to be captured, so he grabbed the camera and he got it. And for us, it's almost like when something happens, it can be like, oh, I just need to grab that thought. Oh, I need to grab that. That was an experience I just went through. And this is something that can help other people if I put it into words. So it might be that something just comes to us. But sometimes we're asked to craft something, and we might be commissioned to and given a specific topic. And, you know, you use your reason and you use your voice to craft those pieces, whether it's sort of your idea or you've been asked to write something on a theme. So some questions to answer to help a piece come about. What is it I want to say? So come back to, it doesn't matter where you go and weave to different places, what is centre? What is it I'm actually trying to say in all of this piece? What is the main message? Be clear, know your message. Do I have a particular take on this issue? So how does my experience come into play here? What can I bring to it? What is the USP that I bring, the unique selling point, if you like? Something that no one else can bring. Have you been through a particular experience? Have you got a particular take on this? Have you got a particular style that you use? What is your USP? How do I want people to be moved? What response do you envisage? What action do you want them to take? Is there some transformation that could come about because of this piece? How can I say it best? It's always a great question to ask. So play with it, sit with it, shape it. How can I say this in a way that points to Jesus? Remember, that's our ultimate reason. And what literary techniques would lend themselves to this piece in particular? Is it personification, alliteration, rhyming, wordplay? Could I take a well-known piece and put my own take on it? So some different things to think about as we're crafting our piece. Okay, once we've got our piece, then let's have a little word on performing that piece. So studies show that people decide in the first 30 seconds of listening to someone when they're speaking publicly whether they like the speaker, whether they're prepared to trust what is being said, and whether they're going to engage with the presentation. The first 30 seconds. So however harsh that feels, that is apparently how it goes for people. So definitely, if you can, memorise at least the first few lines of your piece. That will be really helpful because that enables you to engage with people rather than just looking down at your words. That will help in that first 30-second engagement. Studies also show that sounds in the higher register are more likely to irritate listeners than those in a lower register. So as women, we have higher voices anyway, and when we're nervous, it can be that we get a little bit excited and nervous and our voices go a little bit higher, and we speak more quickly when we get nervous. So it can make it difficult to connect with listeners. So deep breaths, a conscious effort to slow down, and practice holding our voice at its natural register. These are all really helpful practical things to do when we are performing. So things to think about in performance. Think about pace, not too fast, not too slow. Practicalities, whether you're holding a mic and holding words as well. So think about, could it possibly be that you could ask for a mic that clips on rather than one that you hold if you're going to be holding words as well. If you're doing both of those things, you've got no hands left to gesture or to bring that piece off the page. So think about those things. Get to know what you need to do beforehand before you get up. So for example, before I get up anywhere to do any public speaking, I will always take a few sips of cold water and then have a polo mint just like 5 minutes before I go on. For me, that means I'm not going to need a drink whilst I'm up there. It means I just feel nice and fresh. It's just a habit I've got into, and it works for me. Find what it is for you that is helpful for you before you get up, and it just gives you that bit of confidence. Try to relax your breathing beforehand. Decide how you're going to end. So when we've shared a piece of spoken word, if it's at like an open mic night that I go to regularly here in our town, I would always finish my piece. As soon as I finish my last line, I'd say, thank you. Basically, that's saying, I've finished. And people know it's time to clap and the poem's over. And it gets rid of that awkward moment of, oh, do we clap? Is it finished? Is she going to carry on? So I would, in that context, I always finish with thank you. It's totally acceptable. I wouldn't say thank you if it was a church context, because that feels like it shouldn't be so much of a performance as part of our worship and part of our serving. So there it might be that I would end with something like Amen or Hallelujah. It's still that point where people know, that's the end, and now we're going to move on to something else. It's like a little full stop at the end of it, but just feels more appropriate. So decide beforehand, the point is, how you're going to end. And the takeaway here is practice, practice, practice. In front of a mirror, practice how you stand, practice your hand gestures, where you're looking. If you're doing it into a phone, it can be helpful. Do that and then watch it back. A whole bunch of things, and it comes with practice. We all get to know better what we do naturally and what we need to concentrate on the more we do it. Okay, a word on reading versus memorising. So obviously, if we've memorised our spoken word piece, that enables us to have eye contact with our listeners, which is really, really helpful and can be really engaging. It also means that we've got our hands free rather than holding a poetry book or our phone. Our hands are completely free to bring that piece alive. Some tips for memorising. People find different ways to do this, so whatever works for you, but you could try some of these. Break the piece down section by section and simply learn it word for word. Some people would do that. Focus on the transitions. So memorise the end of one section into the beginning of the next and keep repeating that. Because if we just memorise it in blocks, we don't know what order they come in. So the blocks are fine, but memorise the transitions as well between stanzas. Record your piece and listen to it over and over. That's another way. If you can stand listening to your own voice, just keep listening to it so you keep hearing it. That can help with memorising. Handwrite it out over and over. Some people find that helpful. You might like to use different colours for different sections, and some brains will find that helpful. Link words with pictures. I know some people that literally could sort of map out their poem in a diagram, in a flow from one picture to the next. Or link actions, link your words with actions. So I did a piece once for Welcome Back Sunday at church, and it was like welcoming everyone, and there was various hand gestures, and I remember at one point it was, about people in every seat, and the whole line I went along like this, and there were various hand gestures that helped me to remember the piece. So try some of those and see what works with you. So the takeaway here is set yourself the challenge of memorising a piece by trying some of those. Okay, a word on getting opportunities to use our spoken word. It might be that we feel, that I'm gifted in this, that this is something I feel really called to, but I don't know where to start. Where can I actually do this? So I would say definitely if you want to get into it and have a chance to practice performing, find an open mic night. Find where your nearest one is. So we have one in our town, and I go as every time I'm around and it's possible. I always go. It's a Wednesday evening, It was on last night actually. I was there. It's brilliant. It's a great opportunity. I mean, they're literally giving you a stage. They're giving you a microphone, giving you a whole bunch of people to sit there and listen to your words, and then you get to hear a whole bunch of other people as well and learn from them. And sometimes there might be a feature poet. So we have total open mic. Anyone can just come and sign your name on the door that you want to slot that night. And there'll always be a feature poet as well. So there's someone who's totally brilliant at their craft and they come from elsewhere and they have a little bit of a longer slot. And that's helpful because it helps to raise your game. It helps you to see, oh, what I could be doing. What could I work on? How can I learn from them? So that's outside of church. In church, for opportunities, if you're asked to give a short talk, like an evangelistic talk in a certain setting, think about the creative ways you could do that. Maybe include a piece of spoken word in it. So in our church, I started by simply reading a spoken word piece that I'd written at the end of a sermon. And then I was asked, oh, would you do it as part of our opening worship? So then I shared a piece and then the band came in. There was no rehearsal or anything. It was just me and then the band. And then I think the next time it was, let's practice that. Let's have the band playing underneath and you can do your piece and then the band will carry on. And little by little, when people see how spoken word can be incorporated into church settings or evangelistic opportunities, they start to see how it can be used, and you might be included a little bit more. Start small, be willing to start small. If you're asked to pray, then just maybe write your prayer out in a way that is beautiful and helps people to engage. It doesn't have to be a sort of poem, as it were, but it's thought through, it's intentional. So take away from this, practically after today, decide what your next step is. So approach someone at church and ask for an opportunity to share a spoken word piece. Could that be something? Find a local open mic night or similar and have a go. Link up with someone else to collaborate, do something together, maybe a bit of spoken word, a bit of singing, or whatever it might be. So on that note, my next tip is about combining spoken word with other art forms. So I'm going to mispronounce this, but the German word Gesamtkunstwerk, I read it all the time and I still don't know how to say it, but it roughly translates as a total work of art. And it describes an artwork, a design or creative process where different art forms are combined to create a single cohesive whole. And I love this. I love spoken word being used with other art forms, and I think we should encourage it more. So I did a piece that I wrote called I Made It Because of Them. And it's about all the people in our lives who help us, some who've gone before us, some who we're running alongside, and others who we're helping along on their journey. And I did it on a women's weekend away, and I got my friend who's a cellist to write a part to go underneath it and alongside it. So she started on her cello, then I read a verse and she carried on, and then I paused and she played, and then it was me and then it was her. And it was really, really beautiful. Just combining another art form is really beautiful. I'm doing a poetry evening coming up soon, and I've asked my friend who's an artist to come and paint. Just paint in the background whilst I'm sharing some pieces, because for some people that's going to be really helpful, and it's really going to bring the words alive when they can see, people need something visual. So think about how you can collaborate with someone else, and it's just a whole lot of fun doing that, isn't it, as well? Okay, a little note on when it all goes wrong. So, what to say? So I was really, really worried about forgetting my lines when I shared some spoken word pieces at a conference a while ago, and I really, really was concerned about it. And then guess what? It happened. So I had 200 people in the room, and I was on quite a high stage, and I'm there, and literally every eye is on me, and I completely blank what my next line was. And it felt like it went on forever. I'm sure it didn't, but I think it was pretty noticeable. And then I managed to just pick it up. I don't think with the next line. I think I missed a few lines, and I managed to pick it up slightly later on and carry on. And I think what that did for me was it showed me that, yeah, it can happen. It's not like, and I've seen it happen to others as well on stage, it's completely blank. I've seen that happen. But it helps us to know it does happen and you can recover from it. And, it's a bit like the classic riding a bike. It's like get up and do something again as soon as you can afterwards, because otherwise it will become a thing that you're scared about. I guess another way you could say, another way it went wrong, I don't know, at our local open mic night, a guy who I'd got to know there, young guy, and he came up to me one evening, and I thought, I'm really pleased because I've been open about my faith, and I've shared some pieces that are very obvious that I have a strong faith, and he came up to me at the end and he said, thank you so much for your pieces. They've really encouraged me to include my faith, my Muslim faith, in my spoken word pieces. And I thought, oh, hello, is that what I was aiming for? When something goes wrong, ask, did my failure damage the gospel or simply my pride? Because if it just has damaged our pride, our self-esteem, and we feel a bit rubbish about it, that's okay. That's okay, and we can recover from that. If we think we did something that damaged the gospel, then we can bring it to Jesus and work through that. So three takeaways for this, for when something goes wrong. Find your person or your people you can be completely honest with and share with them when it goes right and when it goes wrong. But when something's gone wrong and you feel embarrassed, or you feel like, I never want to do this again, or whatever it is, have your people in place already, at your safe place that you can go to and just be completely honest with them, and you know that they'll care for you. Secondly, come back to your reason, come back to your why, because that can get things in perspective. And this was one thing that went wrong. This was one moment. Is that enough to put you off that whole reason that you've got, that whole why, that whole kind of mission statement? This is what I'm about, and this is how I want to use this gift. And thirdly, Amy Orr Ewing says, let the Lord tend to you before, during, and after you've spoken. I think that's really beautiful. Okay, a couple of words before I finish on from this book. This is one of my go-to books on creativity. It's called Hegarty on Creativity. There Are No Rules. It's by John Hegarty, who is an advertising executive, not from a Christian point of view, but it's like 50 little ideas about creativity, and I absolutely love it. He says in here, reach for freshness. So he's suggesting that maybe there's not true originality. Maybe things have been thought of before, and what we come up with is always in relation to something else that we've seen or we've heard. But he says fresh. Fresh is a good term to use. It might not be completely new, but fresh is a really good thing to aim for. So reach for freshness in your creativity. Secondly, he talks about the power of reduction. Now, this is an advertising term, and it's basically taking your big idea or a complex thought and reducing it down to a simple, powerful message. And I guess in a way with spoken word, that's what we're doing. We are saying, here's all my experience, and here's the gospel, and here's all this good stuff. But right now, in this 1 minute, I want you to hear it in this way. I guess it's a bit like the iceberg thing, isn't it? Like Like, here's the little bit that we see on top of the water, and here's all the stuff underneath. It's like, yeah, we might have so much more to say. We might have so many more ideas or different ways to explain this, but this is the way I'm going to show everyone the power of reduction. And Haggerty says, at the foundation of any great idea is the truth, the most powerful force in creativity. And I love that. He recognises that even not from a Christian perspective. He's saying the most powerful force is the truth. And we have the truth to share. And that is hugely exciting, to use creative ways to share that. Okay, and finally, biblical principles. So Genesis, a reminder that we are made in the image of the ultimate creative. When we speak things into being in our spoken word poetry, when we craft something where there was nothing, we are following in his footsteps. The parable of the talents, let me remind you of this. Don't bury what you've been given. If you have been given a passion for spoken communication, if you have been given a gift with words, if you are a wordsmith, if you love spoken word, if you love writing poetry, it's a gift. Not everyone has that. Everyone's been given different things. It's been given to you. Don't bury it. Don't leave it unattended to. Don't think, oh, it'll look like I'm pushing myself forward. Don't bury it. Don't waste it. Use it, and it can be multiplied. Bezalel is a great character in the Old Testament to look at when we're thinking about creativity. So in Exodus 31, God calls and appoints Bezalel, specifically giving him artistic, creative skills. It's so encouraging to go back to some of these characters, particularly in the Old Testament, and hear about how they were gifted specifically in creative, artistic ways for specific jobs and purposes to beautify things. So have a look at some of those people, particularly Bezalel is a great example. And we see poetry through the Bible, right throughout. There's Solomon in Song of Songs, David in the Psalms, the grandness of the book of Job. Wow, if I could tell you the number of times I have gone back to those last few chapters, chapter 38 onwards of the book of Job in my life. It's my absolute go-to. If ever I have any doubts or anything's tricky, go right back there and just be wowed by God and how big he is and how small I am. Beautiful piece of writing. And you could say Revelation is an epic poem. There is so much poetry in the Bible. As creative women, we not only honour our God-given gifts if we use them, but we model it and we pave the way for others. So I want to finish on this. This is a piece I wrote a while ago, and it's called She Matters, and today it's just for you. Here she comes, into her future she steps. Life's sometimes been tough. Secretly, she's wept. We gather around, cheering you on. This is your race to run, your life to dance upon. She doesn't matter, comes the external cry. She doesn't count, whispers the internal lie. Oh, she counts, we reply. She matters, and here's why. This female being carries divine image of infinite value, supreme worth from sacred lineage. She has her place among womankind, they of compassionate heart and resilient mind. Softness and strength, tranquil and tenacious, daring and devoted, grafting and gracious. So live your story magnificently. Hold your head high. Your future begins now. The limits, the sky.